Hey, welcome everybody to the next session of Antigen's ongoing AMA series. My name is Stephen Legg. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Antigen Security. We are going to be taking questions for the next half hour from the audience. We have a couple that were submitted ahead of time by customers and partners, and so we'll be getting through those. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop in the chat and go ahead and ask. Um, can we go ahead and get the first question, please? All right, this is a good one. How can I obtain cyber liability insurance coverage? So there's two ways. So traditional cyber insurance coverage, you can either go to a trusted broker that you know, or go direct to a carrier and ask them for a standalone cyber liability insurance policy. They will likely give you an application. That application will have a number of different requirements and areas that you have to answer and fill out. And once you provide those answers, if everything is satisfactory, that traditional carrier or broker will offer you a policy. They'll give you the terms, coverage limits, coinsurance, et cetera, et cetera. And then if that all looks good, they'll send you what's called a binder, and that binder will actually bind the coverage for your organization. The second way is for antigen customers who are a part of our Titan Defense Complete program. You can skip all of that process and get coverage through one of our approved carriers that is automatically approved for members of that program. Go ahead and put up the next question, please. Oh, this is a good one. Can you explain what the claims process typically looks like? Okay, so it varies a little bit carrier to carrier, but in general, when a customer or policyholder has a breach, they'll become aware of it in one way or another. They will go and engage either their broker or the carrier directly. Most carriers have like a claims line and adjusters that will respond to those requests. That could take on the slow end 2 to 3 days. On the fast end, it could be same day or next day. Essentially, once that's done and you get engaged with that adjuster or the claim management person on the carrier side or through your broker, they will set up a meeting with you, talk through the circumstances. They'll talk to you about forensics, recovery, legal support. If it's a circumstance that is suspected to involve PII, customer data, or anything that would trigger notification or disclosure requirements, they'll likely have a conversation with you around that and with counsel. Um, Counsel will likely recommend things like identity protection or somebody to assist with public relations and customer relations. And once those parties are all engaged, they will engage your technical environment to begin assessing the damage, helping to triage, contain, and recover from the event, and ultimately, drive you towards the end of the claim process with all of that kind of in hand and in mind. Um, Now, it's worth calling out that um, not all claims are always approved. The application process that you fill out at the start of your cyber insurance journey is used essentially as a measuring stick for what you should have in place and how things should be handled. And if you um, fail to implement those things correctly, if you didn't, if you kind of misstated or misrepresented something in any way, that may question the validity of your claim and could threaten the coverage that you obtained, even if the carrier underwrote it in the first place. So that's a good thing to know and just kind of call out for folks that have never made a claim or never purchased cyber insurance before. But great question. Can we have the next question, please? When I make a claim, how long does it usually take before I get help? So as I mentioned, that initial up to intake process could be 1 to 3 days. It could be another, like 1 to 5 days for those other third parties to get engaged, depending on the carrier and who those third parties are. Again, that's unfortunately just kind of the reality of rallying the troops when there's not an established relationship or connection with all of those parties ahead of whatever incident has occurred. Um, and that's really uh, for anyone who's asking this question, what I would recommend is that you have a conversation with your leadership team at your organization about your cyber insurance coverage and the parties that would be brought in. And if you don't have pre-selected parties who know you and know your business, go out of your way to do that. It'll make your life a lot easier when a bad day occurs. But great question. Can we go ahead and have the next one? How much is typical out-of-pocket cost of a claim? Okay, so this varies obviously by size and industry, but kind of in the SMB and mid-market space, it's around a $500,000 um, for the claim itself. Now, that's not a $500,000 that you won't get paid for, but typically, unless your policy is written that the carrier will actually pay, and some policies are, um, unless your policy is written to that the carrier will pay for the remediation, response, recovery, legal fees, etc. Um, you may be paying those costs out of pocket and then getting reimbursed. So there may be a delay between um, the time that that you submit all of that and get those folks engaged, and when the carrier actually pays that out. But again, the typical cost is around $500,000 for most organizations, regardless of size. And that might be a little bit lower for smaller, less complex organizations, might be higher for larger, more complex organizations, but that's a generally good kind of starting point for considering the business case for insurance and incident response readiness. Perfect. All right. Can I have the next question, please? Okay. What is the difference between traditional cyber liability insurance coverage and the next generation cyber liability insurance program that Antigen provides access to? This is a great question. It's different from the beginning through the claim and remediation process. So, if you are engaged with a traditional cyber liability insurance policy, a standalone policy that's not a runner or other just kind of throw in cover piece of coverage with another insurance policy that you're purchasing through your broker or carrier. Um, the antigen process is to bind that coverage and provide a financial service assurance warranty in addition to that coverage to provide even more kind of first dollar financial support for our policyholders, as well as use that warranty essentially as a measuring stick to provide um, either further discounts or reimbursements of premium to those policyholders that are a part of our programs. A traditional cyber insurance, you might get discounts if you have good answers to some of your responses on the questionnaire, but that's not terribly common. There's maybe I can count on one hand the number of other organizations that offer other benefits um, to insured for different programs like this, but ours is unique in that it provides kind of those additional layers of support, better coverage, and premium discounts or rebates anywhere from 30 to 90%, depending on the size and risk profile of the organization. Um, the other differences are on the kind of delivery and fulfillment side of it. So because our Antigen Heightened Defense Complete customers are essentially purchasing and working with us to manage the totality of their cyber risk program across all security and financial controls. It puts us in a unique position to kind of hit the ground running when an incident is actually occurring. Um, we don't have transparently, we don't have very many incidents with our program members because their defenses are very good, but when they do happen, we're typically catching those incidents very early stage, and containing and remediating them, often resulting in not even a need for a claim or any kind of disclosure because we're catching it so fast. But that's one of the big differences between kind of traditional coverage versus the programs that Antigen provides access to. Um, and that last point that I made is really the one that provides the kind of better financial end result for the customer relative to incidents that come up. Our cost per incident for program members is 90 to 100% less than what's traditionally seen in the market. Great question. Um, okay, can I have the next question, please? I am a small business. Do I really need cyber insurance? Well, um, do you need your technical operations to function as a business? Do you would losing customer data or intellectual property or whatever you're storing that is valuable um, put you in a position where it cause financial ramifications for the organization or cause you to lose customers? If the answer is yes to either of those, I would say you should have a conversation about cyber insurance and really, have that risk understanding for yourself and your partners and employees, so that you know and can provide confidence that if something like that happens, it's going to be a speed bump, not a extinction event. Great question. Uh, can we have the next question, please? What are the security requirements a business needs to obtain cyber insurance? That's a really good question. Um, the short answer is that it depends on the size of the organization, the vertical that you're in, your risk profile, and all of that is kind of what's assessed in that initial application process if you're going the traditional route. But among the things that they will ask for are things like next generation antivirus and EDR, managed detection and response or MDR, and zero trust segmentation, ZTS, single sign-on or multi-factor authentication, at rest and in transit encryption for sensitive data, advanced email and cloud security, patch and vulnerability management, backups and disaster recovery, as well as things like, in the case of kind of mid-market and larger organizations in certain verticals, then carriers even start looking for things like security event and information monitoring. They want to know that you have resilient logs, the ability to provide for a forensic view of what happened, even if a criminal performed anti-forensic techniques, etc., as well as things like zero trust network access, internet and DNS proxying, inbound and outbound. Um, they look often for configuration and asset management and how you're performing those things. Um, all of those can be requirements for cyber insurance policies, depending on the size and risk profile of your organization. All right. Let's see if we have any other questions. Looks like there's one coming in now. Hold on. Uh, just trying to give folks a chance. So while we wait, I'll talk a bit more about that process as it affects some of our partners, like managed service providers. Um, if you're an MSP and you don't have a cyber insurance program, or you're not enabling your customers to get cyber insurance, that's absolutely something that we can help you solve, and you should be aware of. Oh, you should be aware of the claims process and go back and kind of listen to what I described there, because if you don't know how you would respond to some of the inquiries that come up there in that process, you really should before it happens. Oftentimes, those events can be very damaging for customer relationships, depending on what kind of support you're providing. If I want to get started with Antigen, how can I get a quote? So what you would need to do is just get in touch with us through our website. We have a contact form. We'll get you connected to one of our reseller partners through our sales team, and we can provide a quote on both the cyber insurance requirements that you need and our Titan Defense Complete program, as well as that cyber insurance policy itself. Oftentimes, for folks that are interested, um, you can save anywhere from 50 to 70% on your premium off the top. And it depend if you meet the qualifications and requirements, um, you can be eligible for a 30 to 50% reimbursement at the end of every policy year. So and I believe we just put the contact URL in the chat as well. That's a good way to get started, is to go to that page and submit your info, and we'll get you connected to one of our reseller partners to get you moving down that road. Great question. All right. Were there any other questions that folks wanted to ask? I know I saw a couple people type it in the chat. All right. Well, we will go ahead and wrap up for today. Really appreciate everybody joining me, and we'll have another AMA session next week. Thanks, everybody.